So last week I got the awesome opportunity to go and watch the premiere showing of the new Marvel Shang-Chi movie. And even though I'm definitely not early on this review, this may be one of the least late reviews I've had in a while, which is, it's kind of sad. That's saying something. So right off the bat, there's a lot of talk going around about the movie. A lot of people are saying it's one of the best Marvel movies ever made. As for me, I do have some mixed thoughts on it. Overall, I think it is a very decent movie. And exactly that. I think it's very decent. I think a lot of people are selling this to be more than it's worth. For one thing, I'll kick it off by saying that they've done this no-name character, Shang-Chi, a lot of justice. And by no name, what I mean is the whole Marvel pulling out the comic book out of the bottom of the pile concept. A lot like what they did with Guardians of the Galaxy. It was impressive to see what they're able to do with a character that nobody knew anything about. Let's talk about some of the things I liked about the movie, starting off with the VFX. I'm gonna get this out of the way because it's a Marvel movie, and you'd think it's a given to say that it has really good VFX and CGI, but it's not really. If you watched Black Panther, you'll know that there's a lot of really sketchy shots in there, and I'm happy to report that this has none of that. Every single shot looks magnificent. They went above and beyond to make the end battle and everything in between look really good. Specifically, I want to give a call out to the CGI used to make the rings because it just looks really cool. It seemed like a bit of a derpy idea and I wasn't sure how great it was going to be, but in execution, I'm really excited to see Shang-Chi actually put them into execution. The acting was also pretty good on all the fronts. I mean, I don't have general complaints about it. Any complaints I do have, I'll get to later, but overall, I think the acting was pretty solid and they did the most with their parts. I also want to give a specific call out to certain praise that a lot of people are giving this movie that I actually have to agree with. In the Mandarin, the father figure in the movie, he's one of the better MCU villains. I liked him a lot, and when I walked away from the movie, it was a little odd realizing he was one of my favorite characters, which speaks to the good acting that he does and the proper character writing, but unfortunately it does also speak to some of the lack of attachment you get to the other characters. Oh, and here's something unexpected. Awkwafina, who acts Shang-Chi's or Sean's main friend, she was actually tolerable, and I point this out because if you know me, you know that I really just don't like Awkwafina in any of her roles. She's an over-the-top character who is really obnoxious. The closest to liking her I've ever been in a movie would probably be in Crazy Rich Asians, but even then she was just a bit much sometimes. Anyways, my main number one concern going into this movie was having watched all the trailers and a lot of the TV spots and the clips for this movie, every single one, I swear, had some sort of clip in it with Awkwafina cracking some sort of cringy, cheesy joke. And that is something I definitely agree with a lot of people Marvel needs to shapen up. The humor that they inject into the MCU movies is just too strong. It's the reason I don't like Guardians of the Galaxy. It's the reason I hate Thor Ragnarok. This movie, despite my concern for Awkwafina ruining the role and ruining the movie, she actually didn't do terrible. She had a few too many jokes in there still, and I don't really care for her as an actress, but she didn't ruin the movie, and that's more than I thought I'd be able to say having watched the clips before the movie. The action and choreography was awesome. I think that's a given. People knew that was coming even from the first trailer that dropped. The choreography was truly awesome. Now, a lot of people are passing this up as a near flawless movie, both critics and audiences, and I just don't agree. It's not that it's an awful movie. It's actually one of the better additions from Marvel, but it doesn't mean I can't talk about the problems it had because there's some blatant ones. But the main actor for Shang-Chi, from what I hear, this is a pretty controversial opinion. Despite him being a decent actor, I don't think he had a particularly good character. I don't think Shang-Chi was a very resonant character to attach to. A lot of people said he was absolutely flawless in the role, and I don't get where they're coming from. Like, honestly, he was okay. He was fine. And I say that because at the end of the movie, I mean, you could have slapped just about any personality on him. He was basically just a copy-paste generic male figure. There was just nothing special about his character except for his daddy problems. But yeah, I know I'm gonna have a lot of people not too happy about me saying that because people are worshiping him right now, and I think he was fine at best. Another major problem I had with this movie that I have not heard a single other soul mention is the music. It wasn't bad, but it was not good. I mean, this could be something that I could just attribute to basically all Marvel movies because most Marvel movies have really generic bland music with the exception of like Endgame and Spider-Man Homecoming. Other than that, they're all just really not that good as compared to a lot of the DC movies with Hans Zimmer in the role as the score writer. The reason I specifically mention it here is because the music in this movie actually ruined a lot of the more climatic moments and elements of the film. There was a few times at the end where, spoiler alert, when the dragons are fighting and beating each other up and around, that the music music made it way less intense than it could have been. It was just very soft, generic orchestral music. I don't know why the freaking MCU is so scared of just hiring Hans Zimmer for some of the roles, because he knows how to slap when he needs to slap and give characters a freaking theme song. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this conversation back around to Awkwafina, because despite the fact that she was not nearly as bad as I thought she was, and she ended up being a perfectly tolerable character throughout the movie, I do have to say that her actual character purpose was very weak. There was no reason for her to be along for the movie, except that she was that quirky best friend who needed to be there to explain the plot to and to tell jokes. When the father showed up and took Shang-Chi and his sister captive, the entire fact of the idea that Katie was brought along for it was absolutely unbelievable and absurd. There's no way she would have been brought on, and if she was, it would have been to kill her, especially knowing the personality of the Mandarin. And they really decided to stick it with her staying around for the whole MCU, not just for this movie, because at the end when Wong showed up, he specifically is like, the two of you's lives have changed forever, and it's like, the two of you? What are you talking about? Awkwafina can go home now. She has no purpose in endangering her lives now. Shang-Chi is the only relevant character here. Next, a character that I almost entirely forgot about until I was writing up this review is the sister. Not only was she not a very good actor, I also think her character was terribly written. There's absolutely nothing in the whole movie that makes you give a rat's butt about her. I don't like the actress they chose for her. She didn't have a very likable face, voice, or personality, and the lines that they fed her didn't really help her either. They just never took the time to develop her, and I personally would have way rather seen them spend time on a better actor and script for her to develop her over Katie or, you know, Awkwafina, in behalf of making it more of a sibling relationship and even a family drama movie. For this one, it's really nothing specific. It's hard to explain, but the best way that I can describe this complaint is the movie just wasn't gutsy. It really didn't take risks that it could have and that it should have. For example, towards the beginning of the movie, when they're fighting on the side of the building and Shang-Chi's trying to protect Katie, at one point Katie fell off the building, and there's this slow, dramatic like moment where you think, holy crap, they're gonna kill this character. And then of course the Disney part of MCU had to swoop in and decide to save her, honestly for no good reason. And I know this sounds like it's coming back to my hate for Awkwafina and her character, but this could have been any character. I think it could have been a really strong and bold move to have killed such a main character that you advertise in the trailer so much, because it shows that the movie means business. Overall, the whole movie only killed people who you wanted to die or people who you knew from the get-go are gonna die. And you can't kill anybody that you like. We gotta use them for the next 15 movies in the MCU. At the end of the day, overall, was this an awful movie? It kind of sounds like I think it is, but it's not. I think it's very much worth watching. It's a great addition to the MCU. At this point, I think the MCU does need to start making stronger and more bold decisions than just throwing a few dragons into the mix. While it does feel like a different flavor, it's a different flavor of the same candy or a different chapter in the same book or whatever analogy you want to use. And while it's certainly not a bad thing, I think there was more they could have done to make this feel unique and different. But yes, absolutely give it a watch. It's nothing particularly special, but some people strongly disagree with me there, so you may be one of them. At the end of the day, I'm gonna go ahead and give this a rating of 6.7 out of 10. Okay guys, I've been absent for a little bit, but I will be coming back with some new videos soon, and I'm excited to see you guys then. All right, later guys.